Welcome, everyone. All right, we're going. Okay. Welcome to the second town hall meeting for the design of the public safety building. My name is Kelly Brown. I am joined by Hannah Price. We are with Turner and Townsend Heery. We are also joined by Chad Katzner in the back with AEI, and together we make up the program management team assisting the city with the development of this project. We are also joined tonight by Croft and Associates, your architect. They are represented by Kip Stokes and Allison Hardy over by the boards. Hopefully everybody has a copy of the agenda. If not, please raise your hands and we will get you a copy. It's also up on the screen. We thought it would be helpful just to briefly go over the agenda to prepare for tonight. So first, we will have some words from our mayor. We will then discuss the results of the first town hall meeting. We will then introduce the new design boards by Croft and Associates. We will open it up for comments and for questions. And then we will hear from our council members. Then we will talk about next steps for the design. And that will be the end of the evening for us here. And with that, it is my honor to introduce the mayor.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and I want to just say welcome. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here. I know it's the holiday season, and we're getting ready for Santa, and just spending some time with family. I think we're all looking forward to that this year. But today, of course, we're gathered for this important town hall meeting to talk about our new police station. And it's not just going to be a police station. It's going to be something that we can all be proud of. Something that we can look back years from now and say, yeah, I was a part of that. So we want you to today take time to take a look at the storyboards that we have there and help us to make selections for this building, not just for the present, but for the future. What I understand is this building should last roughly 50 years, so we definitely need your input. And it's not merely a building, it's an investment in our collective well-being. But our goal tonight is to listen and hear from you, and we want to hear from every individual regardless of your age, your background, your profession, and everybody's voice matters in tonight's discussion. So with that, we're going to go right into it. Kelly, thank you so much.
Wonderful. Town Hall number 1 voting results. On October 23rd, we met at the first town hall meeting, and Croft presented 5 design style boards, and you were able to vote on your favorite style preference. And what we have in front of you is the results of that voting. So as you can see, 55% of the votes went to style design board number 4, and 35% of the votes went towards design style board number 1. And just as a reminder, board number 4 was the railroad building inspired with traditional elements. That received 55% of your votes. Board 1 was contemporary, transparent, and inviting. And again, that received 35% of your votes. So based on the design characteristics of Board 4 and the design characteristics of Board 1, Croft has created 4 new design boards to introduce to you tonight. And with that, I will let Kip come up and talk with Croft and Associates.
Thanks, Kelly. So This is a neat opportunity. Most designers, I would tell you, I'm an engineer by background, I have to tell you that. Most designers don't like public meetings. They just like to want to go off and design, right? And so it's really interesting. We believe that the best design comes from collaboration, hearing from everyone, not just one person's idea, but everyone's idea, and blending those together to achieve a goal and achieve your vision. So I really appreciate these opportunities of these town hall meetings to gain information. So don't remain quiet. Ask questions. Give us comments, because we listen. We want to make that part of this process, okay? So I caveat that, and I want to remind you where the site is. Our site is right off of Buford Highway, 6025 Buford Highway, right where Stevens Road comes in. It's the old library site, and then across Stevens Road, there's 4 residential properties that the city has acquired that's going to be a part of this property as well. So it's 4 acres in total, and Stevens Road, let's see if I can use this, goes right here. The one thing about Stevens Road is that it's got a major water line underneath. So we're not going to be able to build any facilities over top. It's going to be too, not cost effective to move that water line. And so we will predominantly probably put the building on the library site, make it to where close to Buford Highway as possible to get that presence off of Buford Highway, but also have it accessible from the parking area, which will more than likely be on top of Stevens Road and the past residential properties. So that's kind of a overview of the site to get you, acclimated to where this is going to be. Before I go into the next part of it, you probably, as you came in, you saw the boards there, and we're going to present those tonight. But I want to tell you, we kind of underneath those boards, we have other boards. We debated whether we're going to show you our work. Right? It's nice. Designers like to show you the end thing, but doesn't really want to show you the sketches that got there. And so those ones that are underneath are the sketches that got us there. We had a design competition in-house. And so we had all of our architects compete, really, and I put money on the table and gave money to who won. And so, but anyway, we wanted to get the best that we could offer. And so those ideas came out of that. We gave them 90 minutes. So the boards you see on the bottom were generated in 90 minutes. So you got to put them on a timeline, because designers will go all day. And so you have to make them stop. And so anyway, we did that as part of this process. So as I get into this, I'm going to briefly go over each 4 and kind of give you just a background, and I'm going to go in more detail after that, back through them. Okay, so the first one is what I like to call the corner tower. I like to put names to these, not just board number 1, but corner tower, because to me, right when you see this facility, the corner tower is the beacon. It's the beacon to the community. It's going to be positioned more closely. Well, look there. I'm going into detail. This is the corner tower, and I'll make sure, with traditional elements serving as a beacon to the community. All right, and I was going to go into more, but I'm going to go on to the next one. Board 2 is what I like to call the community courtyard. And as I go into detail on it, you'll see why. But community courtyard with traditional and contemporary elements blended in. Board 3 is what I refer to as the ageless depot, linking classic train station with modern functionality. And then board 4 is one that I would call open testament to the past, present, and future. Okay, so corner, tower, courtyard, what was the next one? Ageless depot. And then what was this last one? Open testament to past, present, future. That helps me remember them rather than board 1, 2, and 3, okay? All right, so board 1. So let's get into detail. So as you notice, the corner tower is what you really see. The entrance will be there. You have traditional brick and mortar archways, which is really reminiscent of train depots and railroad facility architecture. It'd be close to Buford Highway for a wayfinding landmark. When you're going up and down, you'll be able to know that it's right there. The Norcross sign that's right there on the site, can stay there if that's what you want. But the other parts of the building, and I'll show you how the sketches came out, but it has 3 distinct patterns to show as visual indicators of the 3 distinct functions of the building. Okay, so you'll have police, you'll have court, and you'll have community. Those 3 aspects of this building are kind of seen in the architecture of the building. Let me show you a little bit more of that. So these are the sketches done in 90 minutes. And so I want you to pay attention to the elevation here. On all this, our site is higher an elevation to Buford Highway, okay? So you're going to be looking up at it. Regardless of which concept we choose, you're going to be looking up at it. Now, I mean, there's a chance we could remove dirt and move it, but it's an extra expense. We have to do geotechnical investigations to find out if there's rock and all that kind of aspects. But in general, with the site being higher than Buford Highway, it's going to be up. And so I do like this sketch, how he did that and showed that how continually it goes up as you continue on Stevens Road. But you see the three distinct aspects of the building. And with the program, you'll have a two-story section. You'll have a section that's higher, 20 feet high, but it's only one story. And you'll have maybe some one-story areas as well. So that's this concept. The other thing I like about this one is that the site, and this is maybe on every one of these concepts, in that Stevens Road needs to be broken up. It needs to be, so it's not a bypass or a cut-through road. We do not want a lot of traffic. If you're coming here with a purpose to go to this facility. So Stevens Road will have a turn, like a circle. It's not going to be a roundabout. It was a roundabout or a circle? A cul-de-sac. That's it, cul-de-sac. Why can't I think of it? Cul-de-sac, and then, it'll be separated somehow either with parking, landscaping, drop-off areas, that kind of thing, okay? So that is the corner tower. All right, we'll move on to the next one. So the courtyard, community courtyard. So it's train depot elements. You see the arches with modern aesthetics centralized around a central courtyard. So it's best that I show you the site plan, okay? So this is hand sketched. So the building kind of does this wraparound with a courtyard right in the middle. So if Buford Highway's here, Stevens Road is broken up, you have your parking, and so when you park, you come and you can go to police, you can go to lobby, you can go to courtyard. The other parts is that you can have community activities out in this courtyard. It could be covered, uncovered. You could close off portions of the building, when you don't need it, and have community events there and have everything secure at that point. The other thing I do like about this design when I was reviewing was, you have this elevation change. I'm going to go back to the more refined drawing. You have this right here, this element, community gathering, seating. Also, you could have the Norcross sign, down here that's there already. We'll have questions at the end. I might answer them as we go. But so you can see the archways, but then it has distinct functions, kind of that, two-story, 20-foot ceiling height or elevation, and then a single story. And that's how the courtyard is arranged. All right, so going to the Ageless Depot. So Ageless Depot is a facade with large arched windows, intricate exposed ironwork, detailed brickwork, and a clock tower, maybe for some nostalgic purposes. I think I'm going to go to the sketching. So the reason why I call it ageless is that when you're looking at train depot architecture, naturally you have the arches and brickwork and things like that, but at this point right here, it's kind of a transition to more of a modern. But you still have the exposed ironwork here with windows for open transparency and things like that. But this portion right here kind of has that link between old and new, past, present, future as you're going forward. You have this entrance here, which on the site plan would be right here, and you have a parking lot just like on the other ones that you see. So the other parts is that this portion, as it goes back, is more what train warehouse architecture that you've seen. It's simple construction, and then the front has really the focal point where you want it, right there at the presence at Buford Highway.
This is a question. Can you explain the diagram of the building?
The diagram right there?
No, diagram in between all the steps.
Oh, I can't explain that one. Like I said, it's not refined. It's sketch work, and it is on the boards over there. It is funny you say that, is that you won't find this sketch over there because after we got done, he was not done. He's like, no, I'm going to do something better, and so he did give it to Allison, and we incorporated it in here. But this was part of their thought processes, and it really doesn't apply as it went to there. Okay? All right. And board 4 is open testament to past, present, future. So I'm gonna show you their sketching as well, because that'll help you see how we got here. The thing about this one is that, you know, it has railroad aesthetics with traditional brick and mortar arches, plus a welcoming shaded glass for open and transparent environments. It honors heritage while welcoming community gathering and transparent functionality. So they wanted to incorporate the archwork and things like that, but more open it up a glass, but have it shaded. And so you can have, you know, at night it's lit up, you can see into it. You can see activity, you can see energy into it. Also, you know, openness of the lobby and things like that just generates transparency and generates trustworthiness, and you know, you have the daylighting coming in as well. Their site plan is configured most like some of the others, you know, with the front entry right here at the more of the corner, and then elements going back. They did have police at the back, which we could have the secure parking, which is necessary, court towards the front, and in the middle a lobby and community space, so you could separate it off if we needed to. So that is more of the open testament. So, you know, I said ask questions. We'll have a section for that, but your comments are what we really need. So as you go, she's going to talk about voting in a second, but we really want to, you know, none of these are final, right? This is the reason why we haven't put these in the computer yet at all, right? They're still done with hand sketches, done by the same hand, so you can see them all and not judge someone's, you know, hand sketching ability. But it's done by the same hand, and you just tell us what you like, what you don't like, and then more than likely these blend together as they come forward. One is not necessarily going to be the one. What I've seen with these type of town halls is that you have a blending of ideas that come together for the final one. Do you want questions now? Or? Yeah, go ahead.
So this is legitimately a question.
Mm-hmm.
I happened to go to the Musée d'Orsay in Paris last week that is in an old train station.
Hang on a second. We're going to get you the microphone. And you know what? It's not that I can't hear you.
Okay.
It's just that people online, they can't
Yeah.
hear you unless you get the microphone.
Fair enough. I was able to visit the Musée d'Orsay last week in Paris, and it's in an old train station. And I say that not to brag, because it brings, you know, you're talking about using a space for 50 years or more. And this is a space that is 100 or more years old, that was an active train station and is now a museum. And what occurred to me as I walked through it was how they were able to reuse space and redesign space within an overall skeleton that they could not change. You know, Paris is very careful about that.
Right.
So my question to you about any of these designs is, how flexible are any of them going to be to adaptation over time? Because if this is a building that's lasting for 50 years, the need for certain types of spaces may change within that 50 years. So are you just assuming that all of them are modifiable going forward, or are any of them more or less so?
Well, the use of the facility will be for mainly three functions, okay? So I told police, court, and community.
Okay.
For the most part, it's a lot of office areas, okay? Office is easily adaptable to different type functions. We will have some higher, I would say, you know, larger for assembly or community gathering areas. They can be flexible as well, and that's the whole idea of, you know, the chief has been very good with the program, in that, yeah, he can do training in there, but it could also serve as community spaces as well when they're not using it for training. So it is very flexible and adaptable. That's built into the program. The buildings themselves, as we design them, office usually lends to more adaptability over time. Having larger spaces, the court is usually a larger space, you know, bigger, and it can be as flexible as well, be a big open space. But yeah, we'll design that in there. I do like, I like some of the old train stations that you're talking about. I remember going to one in Kansas City, and you know, it's just a big open space, very nice. And you know, when you go to New York City and others, I'm sure some of you guys have traveled all over the place. I appreciate you. I can't believe when you're there, you're thinking, okay, how is this going to apply to Norcross? But that's great. I do the same thing.
In the last meeting was like, people liked the trains, and then they liked big and open, and it's like, they put 5 levels in
Mm-hmm.
down the sides of this train station, and the beginning and the middle is all 5 stories high. You know what I mean? And
Right.
it was just really interesting to see how they kept that skeleton and created all this museum space, you know?
Right.
So,
Exactly.
thank you.
Thank you. Along that line, we would encourage you, as you're looking at the construction, this is further on, is for the interiors not to be so load-bearing or static that you can't achieve what she's bringing
Exactly.
up in the future.
Right. A lot of times we're doing, in our interior special office spaces, mobile, it's more of a furniture aspect, mobile walls rather than floor and walls, yes. And so we're not building out offices, we're using furniture, which has the walls built in to use that, and then you can move it and be more flexible. Yes?
I got the microphone.
Okay. I was like, where's it?
I got a variance hearing in like 5 minutes, so I thought I'd throw my 2 cents in before I left. Three points I wanted to make was, I think the police department is, in general, compared to our neighboring cities, is a more friendly oriented type of experience that I've seen Norcross over the years. We try to make our police more integrated with the community. I think the building should feel the same way, that our police force is not it's not a scary place to go, it's an inviting place to go. It's almost like a community center in a sense that you want people to feel welcome and when they go there and not intimidated by that process. I think that Norcross is a historic city, but it's transitioning. There's a lot of areas that's going to be transitioning, so I like the idea of transitioning. And I think from a practical standpoint, the challenge for this is how it relates to Buford Highway being at such a high elevation. I'd hate to see it just a patch of grass, but you can't put the building that far down, so you got to have some kind of treatment from the building to the street to draw your eye up there, and its location is sort of a gateway into Norcross. So the building should be iconic in a sense, not just something that blends, but something that really stands out, but in a good way, not necessarily trying to make a historic statement. But I think you have to be historic, I think you have to be inviting, and I think it has to, like everybody else says, the more open it can be so that it can transition over time internally. Again, is just bigger beams, less columns,
Right.
that kind of thing.
Right. But while she's moving the microphone, during the programming, Chief has emphasized the aspects of community engagement. You know, we've done some where police have wanted to be like a bunker, separated from everyone. That is not the case here and has been mentioned several times, so great. Yes?
So first of all, I want to say, you're engineer. So what is missing for me here to see the architect talking about it and passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's first of all missing for me. The other thing that you said about not putting it down the building on the level of Buford, is it only about the dirt cost out, or it is the water problem? That's the question that I'm asking.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it is only the dirt things, I don't know how much it costs, but it is about Buford Highway in the same level building will be something very significant. And that's not connected to the design, because all of this design can be done. It's actually to the council to think about, to spend this money, because that's what we are vision about Buford Highway a long time. That's a question that I have about it.
Okay. We're getting the site information now. Survey is being done, and then also geotechnical subsurface investigations are being done, so we'll know what the aspects of the soil is on the site all around, even on the residential. The other thing that we're working on is demolition of the existing structures that are on there, so that'll be happening here shortly. So.
Usually, when you have to take dirt out, someone buy it.
Someone buys it?
Yeah?
Sometimes, but a lot of times you're paying to dump it on their land. So,
Okay.
all right. So it all
I know
varies.
different in different countries.
Yeah.
that's
Sometimes
all.
I wish I was a site contractor, you know, and because it's all about. Well, I'm not going to get into that.
Don't
but
go there.
yeah, don't go there.
Okay, no problem.
Can you turn to the Ageless Depot rendering?
Yes.
Yeah, no,
Yes, this is it.
yeah, it is.
These are both of them.
No, maybe it wasn't. How about try the community? I don't think it's the community court. No. Must be the Ageless Depot one. Got notes, but I can't.
That's
Yeah.
Ageless Depot.
Yeah. I like the concept of this in terms of, and we didn't make individual to each of them. Yes, that rendering. I love that rendering from the standpoint of the height of it, and then, but the security. I worry about the tall glass, and looking at our current building, downtown building, is, to me, and I've been a facility manager for 40 years, is the wasted space. And that would be my one comment, is that we're very careful about not wasting square footage, wasting a lot of volume that's not to be used. From prior meetings, I understand there's a lot of demand for square footage in this building. It's going to be very precious, and being very thoughtful about what those spaces are, how they're used, and then that gets back to usability going forward. I really like the final sketch that he did after his 90 minutes was up in terms of kind of making it contemporary, but still making it look like almost like a structure that's been renovated.
Thank you.
I think I have a question that kind of builds on that. And looking at the structures themselves is very appealing, but when there is transparency in glass, I'm thinking about that area of Buford Highway, and what is the view from inside the building looking out? And is it going to be a parking deck or, across the street? What's that view going to be?
Yeah, I haven't done a. Yeah, it's going to be Buford. It's going to be Buford Highway. I mean, yeah. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yes. Yes.
Hi. So I love, first of all, where Norcross is going with this. My favorite is Board 4. I love the transparency with the glass. I think that it's really, really cool how you all were very intentional to make sure that you brought in community, a level of community engagement. I think that helps us to also bridge any gap that would be futuristic in Norcross with future neighbors and people actually living here within the city limits. I think that actually it helps to forge a positive working relationship between our police and our community.
Well, thank you.
On your second and third board, does that elevation wrap the corner and present to Buford Highway, so that's what you see as you are heading south on Buford Highway?
You mean like this one?
Yes, sir. Does that
wraps around?
Yeah.
That more than likely that continues around that. Here, let me point.
So
that look continues around the corner.
So
and then go ahead.
We're going to start melding the two. Number two, I love the courtyard. I like the ability to have a separate entrance to each of the three functions in the building, so that, but yet they're combined by an exterior space that could be very nice for both an entrance feature and also uses by the city. You were talking about presenting to Buford Highway. Buford Highway climbs as you head north. I know that's not north, but as you head north, away from Stevens, there may be an opportunity with a plaza or something on the front of the building to come back into grade, so that you have nearly level grade rather than having that climb up to the building.
Right.
That may be an opportunity to provide some access from Buford Highway that's not climbing the hill of Stevens, but combining this one with the architecture of the third one, which is more the railroad depot, to the point about the railroad warehouse with the big open space that is long-term functional, I think provides opportunities for both exterior, and that courtyard could be moved out so that it becomes the block that you want for Stevens Road. People have to go around the courtyard rather than through it. But again, melding 2 and 3 could be interesting.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
So this actually takes me back to when I was in ninth grade and I took a CAD class. So I'm excited about that. But my question for the gentleman that already left, when he was talking about as far as the community engagement center and the police department looking more inviting, what efforts has been done? And I don't know if you can answer, I don't know if the council can answer, as far as getting input from the neighboring schools to ensure that what we're trying to construct, like it actually is inviting, you know, to our teenagers, our college students, you know, because if we're talking about sustainability, we're talking about being futuristic. We also need to think about the fact that 20 years from now, you know, they will be the leaders, you know, so I don't know who can answer that.
So I do know this, that the first town hall and then this town hall, the voting aspects, those links will be sent directly to the Norcross High School, and is there any others? Paul Duke STEM. So both of those will get this, and they got it last time, and then they're going to get it again. So like to hear from them as well on this voting. Yep.
So y'all transfer the survey results to another meeting for people that come here to see that?
Well, it's online available for them, and then the links get direct. You know, it's not like, okay, let's see if they see it online. No, we send links to them, to the administrators there, say, hey, pass this on to your high school students, so that they can chime in on their community.
Yeah, and I know at Paul Duke, the graphic design and there were a couple of teachers who were involved in having their students fill out the survey. So yeah, they did coordinate it that pretty well, I think. I wanted to make one comment about the one with the courtyard, and that is that in terms of noise pollution, having
Yes.
that courthouse block the courtyard, if you're gonna have a courtyard space that's usable and not interrupted by traffic noise, I like that design. I'm afraid the other one with sort of the overhang in the courtyard at the front is not going to be a place that's conducive to having people use it because it's on Buford Highway, you know? So I just wanted to call that out, that sort of protectiveness is a nice feature of that one design.
Let me ask you this while you got the microphone. If that was turned around to where it faced the Stevens Road area, if this right here was facing Stevens Road rather than Buford Highway, would that be more interesting?
I think you still need need a building barrier for sound.
Let me show you this.
To create quieter spacing.
I don't know if you can see it, but on their site plan, you might be able to see it on their board. Right here, it actually says noise source.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Well,
it is.
Yeah, and noise travels up
Right.
much more than it travels sideways and down, and so anything that doesn't have a building in front of it is going to be dealing with ambient traffic noise in a way.
Right, so it is something, even in 90 minutes, they were thinking of, you know, hey, this is going to be noisy, and so be thinking about that as well. So yes, that's good.
One last question, I promise. Is there, of these four, which one would you say is more disability friendly?
They'll all be accessible.
Equally?
Yes, equally.
Okay.
I mean, we have to. I mean, per code we have to, but also we'd probably make additional measures to make sure that's well handled.
I'd just like to make a real quick comment about the involvement of our high school kids. I think that's a really bad idea. I mean, I really do. Those kids may or may not live here when they grow up. There's no question that they may or may not. And there's no question that their brains aren't fully developed. So why should they be impacting what we're doing?
Well, some of us are at an age where our brains are devolving. We may not live here in 5 or 10 years, so and if there are 18 and are citizens.
A quick question just for clarity. With all four of these plans, is Stevens Road going to be closed at the railroad tracks? Is that happening? I think you mentioned cul-de-sac. Or is it still going to continue on
Stevens
to the
Road
old
at this site.
Broadstone?
Stevens Road at this site will be closed.
Okay. So
Okay.
no more access to the railroad track or Broadstone. Okay. Okay, interesting. And
Now,
then
there won't.
right. Right, but that's kind of the jog that you would take if you lived in the apartments, right, Bruce? Yeah, okay. So it is going to be a cul-de-sac then. Okay. And you know, I would just be real curious is Chief Grogan here, or was he here? Yeah, I would be curious to know what Chief and the police department, I mean, there's a lot of, advantages, disadvantages to the designs with the full glass front. What's the police station, police chief's take on it? Am I allowed to ask that?
No, don't.
No, I don't mind at all. In fact, but I will say I did not pay that gentleman for the comments that he said about the.
I noticed he left real quick.
I know. I did not slip him $20 for the comments about a police department that is, for lack of a better word, built from humans and not robots. So, but I do appreciate him saying that. And thank you for the question. The main thing is safety, right? I think that's been kind of mentioned as far as, it can't be a bullseye on it as people drive past Buford Highway. We've already addressed that through a variety of things. But, putting all those mandatory check boxes in, if you get past all of that, from an aesthetic standpoint, from a viewing, I've polled my folks and we've kind of looked at this. Whatever's the most inviting is the answer. And I appreciate your comments as well, because the reality is, and my boss has heard me say this before, and I say it tongue-in-cheek, but I'm pretty selfish. I want the easy, low-hanging fruit, and low-hanging fruit is for you folks to kind of help us do our job, help the police do their job by kind of keeping things, that need to be out, because we can't be everywhere all the time. But from a building standpoint, it just needs to not look like what you would think in your mind as a police department. So when you show up, and I said this to somebody tonight, when I show up there, and I'm not who I am, when I show up as a citizen or there for something more negative, I'm not walking in thinking, how do I get out of here as quickly as I possibly can? So that's really the answer. I'm not a designer, but I did tell Allison that I can start with this now mentally. I can't start from scratch, but I can start with this. So I have a lot of ideas. I love a blend of all four of them. There's elements in all of them that we like, that my staff likes as well. So what I would say is now we know what space requirements that we have. The question is can we fit it in there? Some give and take, I think, is going to be required. But if we get to that point, then I'm happy. I really am. I think that it'll be, and Kathleen, I love that idea as well. I'm going to Italy in April with my wife. I plan to think the exact same thing at least one day.
Site visit, yeah.
Because, the reality is they're winning over there for hundreds and hundreds of years. And so there's an idea, there's ideas here that I think will stand the test of time, that I think that aren't modern, day one, but I think it kind of, my kids are 19, almost 20, and 16, so I think that there's some elements here that they would like as well. So that's kind of long-winded, but I think the reality of it is we've got to start somewhere, and this is really a good starting point in my opinion. So the Stevens Road, the reality with that is that our police officers will need to have access. So we'll be able to have access from the rear of the building, but you just can't have the through traffic through the middle of a parking lot. So there's really no options, I think, there from the closing it versus not. And I think it'll just kind of, my hope is that it'll really kind of spur more development around that area. I think the city wants that. I think all of you would want that as well. That's my 2 cents.
If Stevens Road is closed then, Chief, how will your crew respond to calls on the other side of the railroad track? So for the Hunter Hall corridor folks in the Hunter Street.
It'll be a cul-de-sac,
yeah,
but
so,
it'll have access to the parking lot.
So back here where that cul-de-sac ends up, we'll have direct gated access into our facility, into our secure parking. Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
One more. I have a request before.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I have a request before it will go to voting, if each of the designers can write essays about what brings them, that also the student who is going to vote will know a little bit the philosophy about the design.
The philosophy of each one? Okay.
It's missing.
Okay. It's on there. Right there. There you go.
Check, check.
Hear me now? All right, it's good. There's been some mention of sustainability and green building in at least one of the designs. I expect that would play through all the designs.
Yes, sustainable practices will be in all designs.
Okay.
Yes.
Any thoughts about alternative energy other than just a standby generator like we have in the current City Hall building?
It's a possibility. When you're meaning renewable energy?
Renewable energy, yes.
Which types?
Something other than our traditional electrical
Which
power,
types do you like? Which types do you like? Which types do you like?
Well, solar can be used, and
Yes.
as most people know, it's not reliable on a full-time basis. So
Right.
it can be used on a part-time basis when that solar power is not working. Of course, you with a site like that, I'm sure you can aim the panels where they need to be aimed, and you can design the top of the building to be able to withhold the weight of those solar panels. And like I said before, it's not continuously available, so you have to have the traditional power as well
Right.
to be able to switch between those. So has that been thought about as well?
No, it hasn't been. We're doing this in steps. First step is architectural style. We've done programming. We're doing the site investigations. As we get into and nail this down from a floor plan and site plan aspects, then we'll get into those engineering aspects.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. And I apologize, perhaps I've missed some of this. Could you talk about timeline? Is there a certain timeline that you all want each step to be done by?
Well, right now we're trying to, we have a timeline kind of specified in here. I'll go ahead and skip to that. Our next meeting is December 18th.
Okay.
And so we want to nail this down to one concept for you guys. After we get a concept approved, we're going to, at the beginning of the new year, we'll go right into schematic design. And then schematic design, design development, construction documents. Those are kind of three aspects of design. We get all the other players involved, all of our engineers, HVAC, electrical, structural, civil, all playing a part once we get into the new year and get this concept nailed down.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Along that line, along the question though, do you have a schematic timeline for the entire project? Like, do we have this? If you don't, then you don't head towards an end date.
We do.
City manager and everything is, what is the timeline for this project and have you set that forth? Because that drives.
It's set. I'll go ahead and, it's set. And we, I'll let Kelly talk about that a little bit later, but we can get through this question and answer on the schemes, and then we can go over the timeline. Yeah, budget. Yep, all those are design parameters, budget and time.
Let me go back to design for a second. This particular design with the center courtyard, the noise canceling or the noise barrier is a fantastic layout from a conceptual standpoint, as is the timeless train with its aesthetics. I think it's open, but if we can combine the location of the police, which brings it forward and engages it with the courtyard, those are things that would be really advantageous. The other thing I would like to encourage you, and this goes deeper into the design process, when you start detailing, please, 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 regardless of which one of these you choose, don't make it a paper facade. We're talking about the Musée d'Orsay and others like that. That material wraps corners. It goes in deep, and that's what gives it the timelessness and allows it to survive the harsh use that this building is going to get. So,
Right.
and that's money. So,
But it lasts.
but less.
Yes.
But just don't make it a paper facade, please. Thin, like just a layer of brick, and then the arch happens. No, it can be done by changing materials, but aesthetically and functionally, yes, you can't do it that way.
All right, last call for questions. All right.
We'll have another call for questions, but just while Kip's up here, so we can certainly.
I'm ready to walk away.
We can certainly bring him back up here, so let me see if I can advance. Are we advancing? Okay. Voting for Town Hall 2. So we're going to ask for your help again voting, but this time it's only going to be online. There's a lot of information in these sketches, and we really want you to take the time, the comfort of your own home, to review the sketches, talk with your community, and really get a comfort level on what you are voting for. I do want to make a point. You are voting for design style. These are not the final looks of your public safety building. So again, it's style. So, sir, when you said that you liked both buildings 4 or 2 and 3, in your voting, you're going to have to choose one to vote for, but in the comments section, you can absolutely say, I love Board 3 just as much, or you can go ahead and tell us what elements of Board 4 or Board 1, 2, and 3 that you like. We want your feedback, and as Kip said, you know, this is a work in progress. We're taking all of your comments and the voting results, and they are redefining it into the final look. So voting will start online tonight at 8 o'clock. All the information that you saw in this presentation with the sketches and the background generated sketches will be there for you to view. We did want to say that voting will last a week, so next Wednesday at 8 p.m. voting will close. And then we did mention that the high school will be voting and having an option for that. Did you have a question?
I was saying it would be very helpful if we were able to pick more than one option, because as you threw up your pie chart, you know, I don't know which one I'm going to be skewed toward, but I'm going to be skewed toward one because I have one choice, but my comments say that I really like these two.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't get reflected in the total for what I vote on. So
yes,
it would be very helpful to have at least two choices or ranked voting for the options as you set up the survey.
Right.
Can the architect themselves, the people who design it, to put a little bit of philosophy inside of the website? Inside, please.
Some narratives of their design? Yes, I think on some of them they had included some narrative.
I read it, but it's not the philosophy of the design.
Okay, okay. Again, you can make as many comments as you want, and we love the fact that you are torn between Board 2 and 3. That's great. But I think for right now, we are going to ask for a style preference, but please continue to do the comments. The design will be based on your comments and the voting results. So it's not one or the other, it's a blend. We took your comments from the first town hall and we incorporated them into these design style boards. So it does matter. It does matter. We did want to mention something, programming for future expansion. In the first town hall meeting, there were comments about expansion, and we've talked about that a little bit tonight. But we wanted to let you know that we heard and that we are accommodating for expansion and future growth in our programming. The chief was very focused that we have that happen. And so approximately 14% of the overall building will be unused space on day one. For example, there will be empty offices and empty storage rooms when the building opens, which means that there is growth available. Also, approximately 24% of the building's square footage has expansion capacity. And just some quick examples, the record clerk office, on day one, 2 employees will occupy that office room, but it can accommodate 4. So when Chief gets more people on board, we already have the room. Another example is the shop space used for maintaining the patrol cars. We're going to go ahead and stub in for electrical, plumbing, and mechanical. So if in the future we need to convert that room to another office or a different space, we're already ready to go. Okay, now we have another session of comments and questions just based on those slides. Any? Oh, yes, ma'am. Do we have?
I have a question going back to the survey being sent to the students at Palmer STEM at Norcross. In Norcross, is it going to the entire student body, or is it only going to like 3DE students? Who's it going to specifically?
Pam, can you help out on that one, please?
At Norcross, yes.
Hello. So it went to the two high schools, both Paul Duke and Norcross High School, and we actually talked to the principals at both of those high schools and left it up to them to see how they wanted to distribute it. If they wanted to distribute it to certain classrooms that were like the graphic design, the engineering class, they did it that way. And so they each responded with how they were going to be distributing it.
Would you be able to share the
Yeah.
distribution process?
Yeah. You said share how it was.
Yes, when they got back with you with specifically what students received, would you be able to share that with them?
I can send it to you. They actually got what the public got. So they got the link to the site to go ahead and do the survey. Is that what you're saying?
No, I apologize. Specifically.
I will have to pull up their emails, and I can pull that up now and let you know how they decided to do it. I gave them an opportunity to even expand it, and I know Kathleen talked to them and also followed up. So they may have even gone further than what they did initially in that reply that same day to me. They may have shared it with others. But I can actually reach out to them and ask them, you know, who else did you give it to? So you know that for sure. Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
I like the idea of having young people give input, but when I heard that it was going to the high schools, and I'm from a family of educators, and I'm also a design person, so if there were people who really were engaged and interested in the design, it might be interesting to have those votes. But I am a little concerned that it might be an assignment in a classroom, and we don't have an assignment in our population here that everyone has to vote. And if a student has to vote as a class assignment, I don't know how valuable that would be, and I worry that it might skew the result.
Mm-hmm.
Our understanding initially when they replied, and I can verify all this with them where it ended up, but it was not going to be an assignment. It was a volunteer for those that would like to participate. But I can find that out for you.
The land, as you already know, is sloped towards Buford Highway. And as you put a parking lot there, there's more water going towards that business at the bottom. And also, on the same side you're on, it turns into a lake, that parking lot does right now. Is that going to affect your design at all because of the slope of that land?
We have to address the stormwater requirements, yeah, and hold it within our site and do stormwater quality on it and everything like that before we let it go from the site. So we have to abide by all those codes associated with stormwater. So.
Any other questions? Yes. Okay, at this point, I think we will ask the mayor to come up here and help us address the council members and any comments they will have.
Just like to say, Kip and Kelly, thank you so much. You've done a fantastic job for us tonight. And also, I'd like to thank Turner and Townsend Heary, and also Croft for your work so far. We will, at this time, before we open it up for comments from the council, just like to reiterate just a couple of things so that everybody has the same understanding. No ballots will be taken at this evening's town hall meeting. It will be we'll be directing everyone to use the online survey, and I think it begins at 8 p.m. tonight and will run for a week. The next public discussion on the public safety building will be at our December policy work session on the 18th, and we'll have the results of the next survey and allow public comment at that meeting also. And then you will have the opportunity to provide guidance before Croft begins the actual design of the building. So we're looking for consensus at that meeting and not carrying the item for a formal vote in January. Is that right, Eric? Okay. And we'll have provided 3 opportunities at that time for public input since the new team was assembled, and additional meetings will be held as the project progresses. So we're moving forward. Having said that, we will open the floor for comments from the council or questions from the council at this time. And I'll ask our presenters to come back up. And in case you have some questions or comments.
Start down here. Good evening. Thanks everyone for coming here. I think we were all happy and surprised to see so many residents that came out to give us feedback. Speaking of feedback, all of this is very important. I'm not a design person. I'm a functional person, and I do apologize for that. To some of the concerns about high schoolers voting, high schoolers not voting, ultimately at the end of the day, this body gets to vote on it. So if you have additional comments that you feel are more important to giving to them, we are also your representatives. Feel free to email us and let us know your comments external of this. And as the mayor said, we're going to have public hearings. Show up at those, and we weigh those very, very heavily. I might have misunderstood, but I believe we were going to talk, and I'm sorry if I'm jumping out of term, because we might all have this question, but is staff going to address budget?
Good evening. I'm your city manager. At this point, we're about to go into the design phase, and so we're looking at estimates. At this point, this is nearly a 38,000 square foot facility. I can tell you as we've gone through the process, the estimated cost per square foot has continued to go up. Right now, we're using as a ballpark a $25 million building. I think by the time that we get to awarding a bid, where we'll really know what it's going to cost us, we'll have somewhere between $8 and $9 million in cash as a down payment on this building. So it will be in part financed. Our financial advisor is sitting in the back corner of the room, and you're welcome to have a chat with him. But the bottom line is $25 million is the best estimate we have that includes a contingency. But until we award the contract, it's still speculative, and when we get to that point, we'll have to be ready to do some value engineering if we need to bring that price back down and leave some components not as well finished as the ones that have to be ready to go on day one. But roughly $25 million, but as I said, that includes a contingency. We've already put about $1 million into the land, buying those 4 lots on the other side of Stevens to have that assemblage. But that's the best information we can give you today. And some of you are nodding, and some of you realize that in this market, we're only guessing at this point of what construction costs will be a year from now.
It's about the money.
Well, still.
Okay.
Still
so in the first meeting, it was 20 million, and now it's 25 million. Am I right or am I wrong?
I don't know that we've formally given a price tag up until this point. And if I would just remind everyone, at this point, it's the council section of the agenda. So,
Council.
All I can say is I'm thrilled that everybody came out tonight. This is awesome. I think the architects have done a great job trying to synthesize what we gave them in kind of in words. We all gave them in our feedback. I love these ideas. I love the idea that now I can look at a building and see what that, or imagine what that might look like on the hillside. I gather that the orientation of the building and the basic, how the building faces the street was pretty much all the same in all 4 of these. Is that a correct assumption, more or less?
That's correct. We tried to keep the same perspective and angle.
Right,
Basically
okay,
looking at
that
it,
makes
yes.
sense. It will be very important how we design the landscaping around this in order to, I mean, it's kind of out of your hands, but it's another aspect to this. You can have a bare hillside, or you can have something much more interesting leading up to the building, because you're going to have a space and a height difference. And so I think that landscaping is going to be a major importance to how this whole thing fits into the downtown area. But I love the way you're going, the idea of combining the historic with more modern, and the idea of a very inviting space. I think it hits the mark tremendously, and it seems like, from the people that I've spoken with, most people think those ideas work very well together. So, good job.
Okay. Got a couple notes here from I was taking through it. One of the things that I heard that I was kind of happy to hear is in terms of Stevens Road, in terms of its accessibility. Know that for law enforcement, they'll need access to that to continue to serve our community coming out the backside. But I'd like to think, for us to think about pedestrian passage through there. So those who run or use that pathway have an opportunity to use that, or to be able to walk towards the courthouse or community space. Elevation from Buford Highway is something we'll have to be creative about in terms of landscaping, different elevation choices, et cetera. That's what I've heard. And I heard multiple community members here mention a courtyard space, and I echo those sentiments that a courtyard space would be tremendous. Shielding it from noise, noise abatement of Buford Highway is something that's going to be important, but I think is a tremendous value for the future of the city. And speaking of the future of the city, as I think through this design, as I vote through what the designs will be, I try to think a building, what will it be used for and serviced for 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, not just day one. So as we talk about what was interesting is, I think it's the comments before here, it's 14% unused space. What does that mean from our growth? I would ask us to look at how have we grown in 20 years as a city, and will 14% be what we need to do? I did like the fact that we're 24% expansion opportunity. So putting some calculations to, have we expanded more than 24% in the last 10 years? If the answer is yes, I'd like to think that we'd probably do some of that again. We may need to rethink or recalibrate ourselves. And then, the phase time approach, as we get towards the design elements, I think one of the community members mentioned the timeline. I think it's imperative that we have a timeline put in place, whether or not we hit that timeline due to environmental or any unknown factors. What I'd like to see is us to have a real firm timeline, at least put on paper, and if we have to adjust to it or pivot, we do that. And I think you said that after this design phase, that's when we will put that in place. So looking forward to that at the beginning of the new year. And I'll close with those comments. And if there's any questions from the community, I'd be happy to answer as well. And lastly, I echo my fellow council members' sentiments. Thank you for coming. We appreciate all your words and comments, and we'll take those into consideration as we continue this project.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Time saying anything because everybody coming out tonight. You all made a decision to get up out of your house and participate.
Okay,
I also want to say thank you guys for coming out. The three things that I want to talk about, I want to make sure that there is feedback from other agencies, IT, court, and I know, of course, the police department. What are the outliers that they ran into with this type of construction? What worked, what didn't work, and make sure that we don't follow into any of those issues. I know I say this often, we're going to need a project update site so the community, mayor and council, and the residents can keep an eye on this project. And as a PM by trade, I echo making sure that we have a working project plan. Okay. And finally, I want to say thank you for allowing Ruthie's idea to be incorporated and collaborated on. That's I really, really appreciate that. And as far as outreach, we got to move from the community center. We have the east side of Norcross. We need to get some folks from the east side to contribute to this police department, this public safety building as well. We're getting the same folks all the time, and that's the part that I'm really struggling with. We need to reach out to other folks.
Any other comments from council? Okay, at this time. Earlier when we started, when we started this process, I had some questions, and most of those questions have been answered. But I want to throw this out for the greater audience to continue to think about. And some of those questions were, does the current facility provide spaces to house public events? That was one of the questions. Does the lobby create a welcoming and inviting environment so community members feel safe to engage with officers and their departments? Does the lobby have entry procedures and safe spaces that can be used by the community in case of an emergency? Does the building welcome the public, or does it have a fortress look or feel? What makes a facility a community building? We need to think about that. And lastly, are there spaces within the structure for youth in the community to interact with the department staff in a positive environment? So all those questions, most of those have been answered, but I wanted to throw these out there for food for thought for you, so that when we come back and have these conversations, we can all feel good about where we're going with our new police facility. So having said that, I want to thank everybody for taking your time out to be with us tonight and helping us to transparently create what is going to be one of the best police facilities in not only in Gwinnett County, I think, in Georgia. So thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate you.
Thank you. And just to reiterate the next steps, based on your voting results and your comments, Croft and Associates will present a concept design, also a refined rendering, at the city's policy work session on December 18th. And again, this is open to the public, so please come and join us. Thank you. That concludes.
Oh, thanks. Great job. Appreciate you. Yes, thank you so much. Great job.
Yeah, thank you. Good job.
So now we gotta have a schedule to show them.
Yeah, that's kind of easy.
Is there a control tomorrow?
She just sent me that. She sent me one.
My name is Josh. I really like the second one, with the courtyard and stuff.
Yes, yes.
But what would be so cool is if, you do have a lot of topography there, but what would be so cool is if it could be, the front massing could be lower, and then there could be stairs up in that other building. That would be so.
Yeah, we want to get the soils information.
Yeah.
And make sure. Yeah.
Because it could feel accessible from street level, not completely accessible, but somewhat accessible from the highway, and then sort of stepped along. I think it would be really cool.
I'm real curious as to why the county built the library so far back on the site, rather than putting it towards. Makes me think they saw something in the